I lost a national title to a man. Last April, at the U.S. Masters Swimming Nationals in San Antonio, I unknowingly raced a male in the women's category. I finished second and watched my title awarded to him. He won 5 women's national titles that weekend. I spoke up, and now I'm facing a potential lifetime ban from my sport. This same athlete has taken women's titles and prize money across multiple sports. After nationals, it was widely reported that the athlete dominating the women's field was male. Several of us filed protests and posted online. I asked U.S. Masters for fairness and to address a policy that allows men to compete in women's events. Instead of addressing the policy, they filed a grievance against me, charging me with unsportsmanlike conduct. Not for cheating, not for lying, but for saying men and women's sports is unfair. World Aquatics has already removed this athlete's times in recognition from the women's category, but USMS expects me to stay silent or face losing my own times in recognition. Women's sports can only survive if women are allowed to tell the truth. I'm Angie Griffin. If you believe women's sports are for women, stand with me. Visit SaveMastersSwimming.com and sign a letter.
So let me get this straight. A woman loses a national title to another man who should have been in a male category because they weren't he was not born a biological woman. So he should never ever been in that race in the first place. She makes a complaint. She writes a letter saying, this is not fair. I lost to a man. He should have never been here. In reply to that, the commission decides that they're going to sanction her and potentially ban her for life from competing in that sport because she spoke up about a man competing in a female category. Yeah, these people make no sense. But this all stems from, and I've said it many times, right? This all stems from the ideology that men and women are the same. And this is why this rhetoric is so dangerous, because these people are literally saying that men and women are literally biologically the same. Even though biology says men have larger muscle mass, larger lung capacity, and just a strength in terms of superiority when it comes to physical strength, most men are stronger than most women. I mean, we've seen it many times, right? The U15 boys, the U.S. women's national team lost to a bunch of U15 boys. Like, there's no comparison. There's no competition. It's not a fair fight. But what we've seen them continuously do is they basically frame basic biology as discrimination. So you saying that, men and women shouldn't be competing in the same sport. So they're gonna flip it and they say, are you saying that men and women are, not equal? And that's how they flip it.
So if the government were to say every male should have a vasectomy at the age of 16, and then when they, as a devout Catholic, right? Let me finish. As a Catholic, you cannot have a child outside of marriage, correct? So to protect that Catholicism, that standard of Catholicism,
Yep.
Every male has a vasectomy, and then once they get married, it is reversed. If that was a law that the government put in place to lower abortion, for example, how would that make you feel?
As a Catholic, I have to oppose that because, as you know, as a Catholic, we oppose sterilization in sex, meaning sex has to have the possibility of creating life, which is why we don't support vasectomies, we don't support birth control, things like that. The problem seems to be that people want to live as they will, and then when the consequence of sex occurs, which is the conception of a child, they, instead of wanting to deal with that responsibly, they want to place that burden onto the child itself and say, well, I have so many things I want to do, and so I should be able to just go get rid of the child and kill it so that I can continue living my life, which is so great. I think that that's very immoral.
He hit the nail on the head, right? That is the primary, contrary to belief of what everybody wants you to believe, right? Oh, abortions are for protecting the mother. And yet, yes, those cases do exist, but I promise you 99% of abortions are just because the mom wants to live the life how she wants to live, and she doesn't want to face the consequences of her actions. But they'll never ever tell you that because it's not politically correct. And I want you to notice how liberals, these pro-abortionists, right, they always have to create some crazy scenario, like a 1% scenario where, or something, they go to the extreme to actually make their point. So she goes ahead and proposes a law where every male has to get a vasectomy at 16 years old, and then they can reverse that vasectomy once they're trying to have a child in a marriage. Like, bro, that's they always go to the extreme to prove their point. And that just shows you that their point holds no value. Because if you always have to go to the extreme and use an extreme example to prove your point, something that's probably never ever going to happen, that just shows that your point is moot. And it just shows that a lot of these people, they just don't want to take or face the consequences for their actions. That's really just what it is. And let's not, we're just going to go ahead and act as if vasectomies, they're all reversible. No, a vasectomy is not always reversible. And I'm pretty sure the science proves that the longer a guy or longer they stay right with the vasectomy, the longer after they have been, they have the vasectomy done, it's actually more irreversible. Like, it's less likely that it can actually be reversed. So why would you subject all men at 16 years old to a vasectomy that possibly could not be reversed? This is just an extreme example. Like, bro, pro-abortionists, man, I gotta give it to y'all, man. Y'all just go to the extreme to get y'all point across. Like, this is wild.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country.
Our immigration policies are shambles, plain and simple. And right now, our borders are amazingly porous to people who shouldn't be here, such as terrorists, drug smugglers, etc.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship. And we wonder, in this country, why we have an illegal immigration problem.
Unlawful immigration is not acceptable.
We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
We must do more to stop it. By the way, these are the Democrats, the Democratic Party in the 1990s. You see, a lot of people don't understand how far the pendulum has swung, right? This, when people tell you that they're Democrats and lifelong Democrats, these are the people that they used to vote for. These are the policies that they used to vote. This is what the Democratic Party used to stand for, right? Fairness, right? Laws, right? You said we're a nation of laws, right? If you come into the country illegally, you are going to be removed, right? We need to do more to prevent it. And then you take a look at the Democratic Party and where they are today. And you ask yourself the question, well, why is it that they're just letting people, well, President Biden just let people in droves come into the country to a point where now we don't even know an exact number as to how many illegal aliens are actually present or have crossed the border? This is why a lot of people are moving over from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party, or just leaving the Democratic Party and going to another party, or just being independent, or just not voting Democrat anymore. This is the reason why, because the values no longer, the values are no longer standing. They don't have any values anymore. They're only focused on what can get them more votes, which is why they advocate for LGBTQ stuff, which is why they advocate for stuff like illegal aliens, which is why they advocate for things like, males being in female sports. It's all about vote grabbing, right? There's no principles anymore. The party has completely changed. It's not the same. And I've said this many times, but I truly do believe that the reason why they are advocating for all these illegal immigrants to stay here and come over here is because they want to create a one-party state. Because if you allow these people, if you are the one who allow these people to come into the country illegally, then they're going to be obligated to vote for you, and they're going to keep voting for you and keep voting for you, and that's how a one-party state is created.
I'm here to say that systematic racism is real, regardless of your experience as a white man.
Prove it to me.
Prove you what?
What you're saying. You're saying systemic racism is real.
Yes.
So how is it real?
Gangs, I suppose, in black culture. Mm-hmm. I believe firmly that that is an example of systematic racism occurring today. Gangs don't exist because that's something that people want to be a part of.
So white people force black people to be in gangs?
It's easier to control people.
How did white people force black people to be in gangs?
Poverty.
White people made all the black people poor.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So those men don't make the choice to be in the gang. They're
Those
forced
men
into it.
are forced to by circumstance in many cases.
That is such a cop-out. And you're basically saying these black people have no way out, and they're not smart enough to go
That
and
is
do
not
something
what I'm
else with their
saying.
life. That's what you're essentially
Absolutely not.
implying by saying that they can't do it. Granted, the culture in there, in those communities, makes it seem like, oh man, I got to do this. And I understand what you're saying, you know, but with a little education, a little knowledge, and want to better yourself, it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. But that's not because of systemic racism from white people making black people this way.
Victim mentality, yeah, again, very prevalent within the black community. But what these liberals do not understand when they're speaking for black people, I'm pretty sure that woman, she looks like a bit mixed race, right? So she probably has some black in her. But what a lot of these people don't understand, when you're speaking for black people, if, you know, oh, you know, gang culture, right? They're selling drugs. This is all white people's fault. What you're basically doing is just undermining black people and saying that they're not smart enough to make their own decisions, right? That's basically what you're saying. And it baffles me how a lot of these people cannot see what they're doing, and that the very oppression that they're complaining about themselves, they're doing it to themselves. Because if you're going to go ahead and blame other people for your problems, right, as if it's not the 13-year-old's choice or the 16-year-old's choice to join that gang. I mean, nobody came and put a gun to their head and say, you have to sell drugs on the corner. Nobody ever said that, right? And this is exactly why the victim mentality is very dangerous, right? Because it replaces accountability, right? You're saying that I'm here because somebody put me here. No, you're there because you made the choice. All these guys that are in gangs, all these guys that sling drugs on the street, all these guys who bust guns and they think that they're so cool, that's their choice. Nobody put a gun to their head and say you have to do this for a living, right? Nobody ever did that. And the fact that she's able to go to a university and better herself and she's actually getting a degree and she speaks eloquently proves the fact that it's actually a choice. You can either choose to be in the gang or you can choose to better yourself and actually try to get an education or get a trade. Well, these people, they don't want to do that.
Do you think it should be a crime to enter the country illegally?
I don't know anything about this. I'm here to talk about budgets with the budget.
You don't have to, look, I'm not a lawyer, you don't have to be a lawyer. It's a simple question. Should it be a crime, I'll say it slowly, should it be a crime to enter the United States of America illegally?
I don't know
without
anything
permission.
about this.
Do you have a home?
I run.
Do you have a place that you sleep in?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Should it be a crime for people to enter your home without permission?
Yes.
You're pretty certain on that one?
Yes.
Okay, but you're not sure if it's okay to enter America without permission, which is our home, by the way. You don't know about America. Okay, gotcha. All right, so this is the best the Democrats can come up with, Mr. Chairman.
And by the way, right, that's a former Biden advisor, by the way. Somebody who used to be in President Biden's ear giving him advice. So if you ever ask the question, you know, why do we have so many illegal immigrants here, and how did they get here, and how are there so many of them? We can't even keep track of how many there are actually. Like, if you were actually supposed to ask any United States official how many illegal aliens are actually here in the country, they probably wouldn't be able to give you a number because they came here in droves. But if you ever had that question and you wanted to ask that question, this is the reason why. Because we have people who are in power who do not believe that coming into the United States illegally is a crime. They can't answer a simple question. A simple question, yes or no. Oh man, but these people are able to be in positions of power. It's as if these people do not understand that according to US law, right, unauthorized entry and re-entry are actual real offenses. Like, you can do some time for that. There are federal statutes that you can actually use to prosecute these types of cases. And this is just not an American thing, right? This should apply all over the world. There's a reason why countries have borders. If an American goes to France and overstays their visa, they should be kicked out of France. If an American goes to Mexico and overstays their visa, they should be kicked out. The same way a Mexican or whoever the hell comes here should be kicked out if they come here for an inconsiderate amount of time and overstays their visa. But refusing to answer the simple question as to whether illegal entry is a crime or not, right? It just shows a lack of congruence. It shows a lack of values, and just that nobody in this party has common sense. Or they just don't respect the American law or care about the American people at all. I would argue that it's both.